the greatest idea I had is the framework that I put together to solve problems. Over the years, the way that I've done things, I finally kind of condensed it or put it down into a framework. And it's a framework of tools, principles, and processes that I put together. And just it's general kind of problem solving framework that I can take any macro problem or micro problem. And the idea is to move the dial so that the amount of people that are being served by the solutions to the problems that I'm tackling is going towards 100%.
The Nebolus team is really happy to have you with us, Anthony, and it's really nice to finally meet you. We have a few questions for you, so we can get started straight away. So to kick off, what does cryptocurrency mean to Anthony Diorio?
Not so much even for me, maybe cryptocurrency. I mean, that's one aspect of things in the space that I've been in for 10 years. To me, it's the starting of what I first heard about back in 2012 when I first heard about Bitcoin. It's really about empowerment. It's about empowering individuals to be in control of their lives. It's about allowing individuals to have the tools or giving them the tools they need to control their digital world. And I've always focused on three things, which is identity, communications, and money. So I think cryptocurrency enables all three of those things to come to play, with the ability for people to be involved in a global system that is inclusive and allows them to participate, where for so many people in the world, it just doesn't exist to have financial services and to have the ability to enter a global economy, just because the infrastructure and for billions of people around the world may not be in place for them to have the traditional systems or the financial services that we're so used to. So it means opportunity, it means empowerment, it means inclusiveness. There's so many different aspects that I can see with the word cryptocurrency, or speaking to it in terms of Bitcoin may be a bit different than speaking in terms of Ethereum. So it's very encompassing, but it means many different things to me. And it was a light went off when I learned about cryptocurrencies back in 2012, and it was coming off the heels of a financial crisis that had hit the U.S. and trying to study about the economics of what had happened, and learning more about economics is what I was doing around that time in 2010, 2011. And it was like, okay, but what could be done to fix these boom and bust cycles, this system that relies on so many intermediaries and middlemen? And that's when I read Satoshi's paper, and that's when I heard about Bitcoin. It was like, it hit me with it. This is a solution. It's a way to use decentralized technologies and to create the ability for a cash system that utilizes digital, which was brought forward with the internet. And so it means a ton of different things to me, but I guess if I had to bring it down to one word, it's empowerment. And I think from there it can spread into many other things, and it's spread from finance into many other sectors with smart contracts, and that's then led to the NFT situation that's happening now, the NFT world that's emerging, and it's led to it's led to the expanse of DeFi, decentralized finance, and so many different things. But yeah, if I had to say one word, it means empowerment to me.
Yeah, empowerment. That's really great. And obviously cryptocurrencies are more popular than ever. However, people do say that you no longer trust the security of cryptocurrencies. Is that really true?
Yeah, no, that wasn't really what I've ever said. When you become your own bank, when you are empowered, it comes with other responsibilities that need to be addressed and thought about. So financial institutions or banks came about many years ago because they could provide a safety for people that held on to cash, and it became a safe way to store people's funds so weren't walking around with it. From there, the banking system developed, financial institutions developed to loaning out that money and creating a fractional reserve system. But safety was kind of the paramount concern, I think, where you could trust, and that's what it's about. You would trust a third party to hold your money, and you're paying that or they're providing services to you. So as the shift is happening towards empowering people to be in control of their digital lives, it comes with also responsibility, and part of that responsibility is security and safety. So a lot of people I don't think have recognized yet that with that empowerment, you do have to think more about, okay, my money potentially isn't in a bank now. So there's other elements where you'd be used to passing off that security to a third party or an intermediary to manage for you. But the idea of empowerment and being in control of your digital wealth or being in control of your digital assets does come with a price of ensuring that you have to keep it safe and that you're responsible for the security and safety of that. So that's more about what I was talking about in terms of the security side of things. It's an industry where the wealthy in the space have to be considerate of their security and have to be considerate that they are now in full control and they're not relying on a third party to take custodianship potentially or to have that. So there has to be other thinking towards safety and towards security that you may not have to think too much about when you have it in the hands of other people. So that's more about what I was referencing. And it was about, there's a lot of third-party services out there that can still enable you to be in control of your digital assets, but split it up into many ways or put it in ways so that others can't get to it. But it has opened the door. Everything's a double-edged sword. So even with the use of cryptocurrencies, there's other downsides. We see what's happened with ransomware attacks that have been targeting people using the features of cryptocurrencies in order to create an anonymous way to unfortunately hold people ransom and demand cryptocurrency in return. And that's just one of the things that people need to be considerate of and need to be more cautious and careful because of the features or certain the features of the products also can potentially lead to things that people need to be more concerned about. So that's what I was speaking about more on the security and the safety side is with more responsibility, you also have to have more things that need to be thought about. So when you have the power to be in control, you also have to be aware of that also comes with other added risks and other things that need to be considered of.
What about your physical security? Is this something that has been affected since you've been involved in the world of cryptocurrencies as well?
Yeah, definitely. I remember, years ago, 2013, 2014, speaking with other colleagues, there would be a definite, we envisioned a real need for a specialized security services to be developed because you would have these crypto wealthy folk that would need to think about things a little bit differently. So yeah, I've had personal security for a while and security programs and plans in place, and it's something that I feel very comfortable the way that I do things over the last few years. But it is something that needs to be addressed, and I do encourage more and more people to be considerate of that and thinking about that. Because of the added responsibility that is required when you do take more control or more empowerment of your digital assets or your financial things, and sometimes there are trade-offs when you make the move in that direction to say, I don't want to rely on these third parties anymore. I'm going to be in full control myself. There's other things to be considered of, and I do encourage people to take those considerations and to ensure that they're thinking about that. And it's something that has been top of mind for me for the last number of years. And it's something that I do take very seriously, and something that I feel I'm pretty comfortable with what I have in place right now.
So current news platforms, they implement a lot of user data and the process of clickbait. What are your thoughts on this? And do you think this is rightly implemented?
Yeah, I believe that it's the business models and the month after month seeking of profits via deficient business models that has led to a lot of issues with the world faces right now with misinformation and with scams that happen. And it's unfortunate that these, what I call these deficient business models in technology are, and using things like AI and using things like algorithms that are unfortunately creating turmoil and allowing unsophisticated people, to get put into these traps. I'm not a fan of clickbaity articles. I think that it's a path to sell more advertising or to serve business models. I think it's lazy. I think there's better ways to create value that serve more people that aren't deficient and don't exclude people or don't lead to people being upset with the way that people do things. The same thing with advertising models, user collection of information. These are all things that I think are just standards now. Unfortunately, they're being questioned, and they've been questioned for a while. And for the last 10 years, I've been building products to empower people in technology that doesn't rely on advertising models, doesn't rely on collection of user information, all with the premise of the end user should be in control of their identity, communication, and money. And that's how I built things. And I think models to make money need to be thought about better, and they need to be done in inclusive fashions that create more wins for people and don't create the harm that we're seeing to emerge, that's emerging. I think the epidemic of misinformation, the whole attention economy, how can products, they're fighting to get people's attention, and they're fighting to keep them within their products. And I just don't think that equates with how humane technology should be built. I think that we should be doing things, or technologies, not we, sorry. I think technologies should be built that they improve people's lives. I think they should be built that they improve relationships. They improve things. They're not here to keep you transfixed into their screens, into selling their advertisements to serve their clients. So I think it needs a complete rethinking, and I feel very fortunate to be working in a space where I feel I've contributed to the idea of the user should be in control. It shouldn't be third parties that are holding your information. The money should be held by you. It shouldn't be held by third parties. Of course, different options and choices are available for people, and that's fine. But as a whole, I think there needs to be a complete rethinking of the way that money is made, and a rethinking of the way that business models, which I think just need to be made better and need some better problem solving to come up with better wins for more people. So I'm not happy with the models that exist or that are the standards right now. And I do think that it needs to be changed in ways that more people are served.
That definitely agree with that. And in terms of people's mentality, do you think it has changed since the launch of the Bitcoin Alliance in Canada?
Well, I mean, I don't think that's an exact date or when things change. I think things are gradually changing. I think people are understanding more and more that technology is providing new options, new choices, new solutions. At the same time, I think it's providing other opportunities for people. It's definitely changed over the last 10 years. I think the idea that something like Bitcoin is a household name now, I don't think there's pretty much anyone in the developed world has heard about Bitcoin now, and it's the similar thing now almost for Ethereum, where it's becoming that household name, where people understanding the power that Ethereum has, and similar to Bitcoin, but even more advanced and more available to create change in many other sectors. So there's definitely been a shift and a change, and people understanding that it's similar, I think, to where the internet was emerging, that it's something that they need, that understanding is important, and people are looking for information on how they can utilize it and how it's going to impact their lives, impact their jobs, impact their families. So yeah, there definitely has been a large change since when the Bitcoin Alliance in Canada was set up in 2013, I think it was, to where we are now, almost 10 years later, and it has been an interesting progression. And it's great to see a lot of the world embracing and understanding and starting to figure out that it is something that's going to create empowerment. It's going to create a lot of value for people.
What would you say are the key contributors for this change, for the shift?
I think it's a lot of the entrepreneurs, the businesses that have emerged to provide services and value and choice in the ecosystem, making things simpler for people to use it, exchanges that have emerged in order for people to get exposure to it, ETFs that have emerged recently. It's really an entire sector that's emerged. There's many different factors, I think, that have created value and that have added to its growth over the last number of years. I think a lot of it still has to do with the empowerment and the idea that people feel that potentially they've been excluded in the past, and there's opportunity for them to now be included and to be able to utilize these technologies to help improve their lives and create value for them.
And also, you've worked in many countries. So what would you say makes you choose one country over another in terms of regulation? Do you think that's a key factor when you're making that decision? Well,
frankly, the only time I've really set up in another country is when we set Ethereum up in Switzerland back in 2014. Aside from them, I've been in Canada, and I've stayed in Canada, and I've done my best here to keep my business in Canada and to navigate the regulatory environment here, and to do things that in ways such as not holding people's money in my wallets. We never take custodianship, so we're therefore not regulated because we don't actually hold people's money. The keys are held by the end user, not by us. I don't run a trading platform. Things like this that I've done to ensure that I can feel comfortable being here in Canada and not have to move overseas like a lot of my colleagues have done. The reason we moved Ethereum to Switzerland initially was set up here in Toronto. It was the first organization, but there was just uncertainty and a lack of clarity with regulations and rules that we felt it best to set up in Switzerland. That's where we set up the main operations. So aside from that, I really have focused here in Canada, and I don't intend to move outside of Canada. So I haven't made really those decisions in businesses that I've had where I've had to set up overseas or in other different areas, except for when we initially set up Ethereum.
All right. Just going back to the topic of, misinformation in the media, what would you say is the solution to that?
I think the solution is new ideas, and I was just saying that this is not the best way to do it. Here are solutions on how to do it in a better fashion. I've always built my business on partnerships. I think that's the way to monetize. When your partners do well, you do well. I think monetizing on advertising models which are serving other people within your products, or doing it through collecting user information, which eventually could get exposed or hacked, and having to control that information in centralized systems is just asking for issues to happen. And I always say, the best way to protect someone's information is to not give it out, and for having the end users never have to give out that information. So I think that, sorry about that.
No worries.
So I think the ways are to bring forth better ideas, and I've got these ideas and ways to solve problems of saying, the models maybe are deficient right now. They're serving some people, they're not serving everybody. And I think the best way to have change is to create new ways of thinking and new ways of problem solving that serve as close to 100% of the people that we can. Because when you exclude people from the solutions, they're not on your side with what they're doing because they don't really care, because you're not benefiting them. And B, you have an opportunity to bring them on board with what you're doing and provide solutions that improve their lives and get them to join you to create movements of aligned individuals together towards common goals. So I think what's needed is better problem solving and leaders, and more leaders to be developed and more problem solvers to get developed. And that's really one of my goals and missions moving forward, is to create leaders and to create problem solvers that are working together to create more wins for more people, and looking at current models and saying they're not as efficient as they can be. They're not bringing on as many people to the solutions as we should be doing, and they're not creating alignment with the way that they're operating. In fact, a lot of them are creating harm. And that harm is growing. And technology, to me, is one of the greatest issues we have. It's also one of the opportunities that we have to create better change and better improvements for life. But the way that it's being done with a lot of organizations and structures, I think is aligned with how a lot of the financial institutions have worked. And you're in these cycles of investors and seeking profits that lead to a degradation of the planet, degradation or harm towards people, because they haven't just been thought through better and how to create better wins for more people. So I think it's possible. I think new ways of creating value need to be explored. And I think new leaders need to emerge that are aligning well with how to serve as many people in the world as possible. And I'm hoping that's something that I'm going to be able to achieve and bring forward, because I've recognized, it's been over 10 years, that the models that exist in tech are going to lead to the change, and a lot of the tech companies that are following these deficient models and do not create the change needed will not be around anymore. And the ones that are understanding that if the old ways aren't working, what are new ways that need to emerge to work? And if that's the focus, it's those companies that will recognize it early and will recognize new opportunities and ideas that the incumbents don't have. And unfortunately, their desire to serve investors and to create the most amount of profits as possible are coming at a cost, and new emerging ecosystems will develop where people will be more aligned, and unfortunately those incumbents will not be able to keep up. And it's just a cycle that's happened in every other industry, and very similar to what's happened in the financial industry, what's happened with companies that couldn't adapt in publishing or in the news industry when the internet came about. It's happening now, and unfortunately, it's the tech companies that I'm seeing as the ones that are going to be left behind because of their inability to change, because they're so large and they've been stuck in business models that unfortunately are going to lead to their demise.
Speaking of investing, how would you say one should separate their emotions when carrying out an investment? Do you have any advice on that?
I generally like to say I don't give advice. I talk about what I've done in the past. I just never want to be a person that someone listens to and takes some initiative or something just because I've said it. So its phrasing and words are really important to me. So what I would say is that what I like to do is, removing emotions from making decisions like that has been wise for me. It's something I try to do. I'm not a day-to-day markets kind of person where I'm looking to see how things are doing on a day-to-day basis. I've always been very long in the space and always look to see where I think things are going to be years from now. I got into Bitcoin when it was, under $10 back in 2012, just because I understood the technology, I understood the economics, I understood what decentralized systems were then. I had a background in computers and technology, and that enabled me to make the decisions and understand it. And then it was building out communities to bring people together and to hear ideas that were flourishing, and be able to go and take that knowledge to be able to create value and to create the technology and create winning portfolios that I've been able to put together. So definitely trying to remove emotion. When emotion is involved, I think people can make rash decisions, or when people get into things because there's a fear of missing out. When things do turn, and without understanding fundamentals and things, there's maybe quick exits that happen, and this is where the big fish will just wipe out the little fish, because a lot of people will get in due to hype, don't want to miss out. But then when things turn a bit, and let's say there's a low time in the markets, they will sell quickly, and then they'll take a loss, and they'll be they're going to be jaded because they feel that either they got taken advantage of, or they just they didn't understand things well enough to make the accurate decisions. So for me, it's about educating myself and ensuring I understand what's going on, and then making those crucial decisions only when I understand everything. And that's how I've always operated.
So would you say that is also key in terms of mass adoption, in order to sort of spread the word and make Bitcoin and sort of the rest of cryptocurrencies popular worldwide? Would you say that education is key?
I think education is key. I think leadership is key. People that have been able to build up their trust capital, people that people can turn to say, I trust that person. It's very difficult in the space globally in order to find accurate information, and of course that's exemplified by business models and things. It's to have some come and say, I want to understand this, but where do I go to understand it? It's very challenging and difficult to wade through the noise and to wade through the advertisements and wade through people that you're not sure that you can trust, and it's very challenging. I think a lot of people must just throw their hands up in the air and just not know what to do. So I do believe education is paramount. I think trusted education and sources where people can feel that they connect with people and leaders that are bringing forth accurate information. And to me, it comes down to such things as having principles of, anybody that says to go buy something, to me is someone to maybe be wary of. People that try to convince others to their point of views, even, I think I would be wary of. In fact, it has the counter effect on me when I hear such things, such as people saying that, or leaders that say, you've got to go do this, you got to do this, you got to say, like, people are different, and people have different needs and different, different ideas of where they want to put their time and energy. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that are looking to take advantage of others. And I've always taken the approach of to not give advice, and to suggest to people, learn as much as you can in order to gain as much knowledge to then make the decisions that you want to make, and always take personal responsibility for your decisions and not blame others for the actions that you take. And I think it's that approach, and I'm hoping more people would do that approach rather than people relying on people they think might be experts, but in turn they may have other ulterior motives or other profit motives. Or maybe trying to tout a certain particular cryptocurrency because they're involved in it, and because by getting more people to buy it, their money is going to go up. So education is I think, the most important thing that the average person could do to learn more about this amazing technology, to learn more about how they can get involved, how it's going to impact them, their country, their family, all these things. I think it's extremely important.
And we have one final question for you. If you had the chance to speak to your past self, what advice would you give yourself?
It's always a tricky question. I'm going to play both sides of that. because anything that I would tell myself in the past would change the way things have happened up to this point. And I'm just a believer that things happen the way they should happen. So I really wouldn't want to impact or change anything in the past, because who knows where I would end up today, and who knows. And I'm very happy and fortunate for what I have. I'm very happy and fortunate for the things that I've done. I think everything is learning experiences, and failures are part of experiences. So everything that I've learned in the past I've done is what I've learned, and I should be where I exactly am right now. So I really wouldn't want to change anything back then, because it could create a whole slew of events that would lead to a whole bunch of changes right now. So I wouldn't give myself advice back then. I would just let things play out as they had, and I'm very happy and grateful and fortunate to be where I am today, and that's what matters to me.
Just on your past, speaking about your past, can you tell us a little bit about what your life was like before you got involved in the world of, cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, certainly. So I grew up as a computer person. I was born in the mid 70s, and it was right with the dawn of the personal computing age. And when my dad bought home our first computer in the early 80s, I was hooked. So computers have always been a big part of my life. Before the internet, I was on modems, communicating with other computers on BBS boards, and I was doing graphic design and HTML programming, developing websites in the early 90s, before the internet, right at the dawn of the internet. So always been into computers. I went to school for business. So my dad was an entrepreneur, and I decided to go in school for business. So I had I ran a few businesses before that, and I worked in the family business in manufacturing in the 2000s. And so when the financial crisis hit, I started studying economics and really understanding what had happened there. So there was a combination of technology, entrepreneurship, economics that really created a perfect storm for me when I heard of Bitcoin in 2012. I dabbled in some gold and silver back then in 2011. But I was really looking for what I really wanted to do. I'd done really well with the real estate that I'd had. I'd had a few decades of business experience now with some other companies I had run, and it was just almost like waiting there for me to hear about Bitcoin. And that was just kind of the launching point for me to say, it's now time. I have the experience now. I have the skills. I have the skills that maybe I didn't have back when the internet was launching. So I couldn't really utilize what was going on there to really. I knew what was happening there with the democratization of information, but I wasn't really old enough yet, and didn't have the experience and tools in my tool belt and able to capitalize on where the internet had started there. But in 2012, it was just a perfect timing for me, and a perfect technology and perfect idea that Satoshi brought forward. And I just jumped in head first and started building out a community and a network globally, locally, because I felt that was the best way to really become a center of gravity for what was happening in the space. And traveling around the world and representing Canada and speaking engagements at conferences and building my global network. And it was eventually that community building that I did that I think led to the Ethereum growth. And it's where I met Vitalik Buterin when I set up the Toronto Bitcoin meetup groups in 2012. He was one of the first attendees there, and setting up a wallet company in 2013. And Vitalik was helping me there, and getting to know Charles Hoskinson and getting to know Joseph Lube and different people that it was that community building that I think that led to Ethereum. And then it was the community building that Ethereum did that led to its growth globally, and led to the developer mindset and the developer growth and community that Ethereum's had is the community building that existed back then, and people coming together. And so, computers has always been a part of my life, and a love for economics and a love for businesses and growing. Now my focus is on serving and giving back, and how I can help the world with my problem solving capabilities to solve larger problems is what I want to be focusing on. And this is where I'm trying to say I'd like to go beyond blockchain and beyond the crypto space to be known as a problem solver that's able to take the tools that I've built and processes and principles that I feel that I've put together in order to help tackle larger problems that may have aspects of blockchain needed, but that's just a tool in the tool belt. And there's a lot of other ways and things that I can do to help give back to the world and be in service of the world. And that's really where my focus is right now.
Great. Speaking of problem solving, what would you say is your greatest solution or sort of idea that you've come up with so far?
I think the greatest idea I've had is the framework that I put together to solve problems. Over the years, the way that I've done things, I finally have kind of condensed it or put it down into a framework. And it's a framework of tools, principles, and processes that I put together, and just it's general kind of problem solving framework that I can take any macro problem or micro problem And the idea is to move the dial so that the amount of people that are being served by the solutions to the problems that I'm tackling is going towards 100%. I think the key is to create, eventually, the idea is to create movements of people that feel that by them joining you on your mission, their lives get better. So it's identifying who the stakeholders are in a problem. It's adding the world as a stakeholder to the problem. And then it's systematically working and putting the layers together to create wins across the board, to create aligned people that eventually work together to create movements, because everybody realizes by working together, their lives get better. So if there's a deficiency of current way of doing things, my idea is how do we incrementally make it more and more, make it better so that more and more stakeholders are being served. And I'm talking about even things like competitors in a business you may run. It's how do you bring your competitors on board with what it is you're doing? How do you realize and provide a solution to them? Because everybody's good at something, everybody's bad at something, and everybody has a problem. I'd love to work with my competitors if they can provide value to what it is I'm hoping to achieve as well. And the more people that you have that are providing wins or creating value, I think that's how movements get creative of aligned individuals. So the idea that utilizing what people are good at, bring it into your elements of a solution and get everybody working together, because when they realize that everybody working together is a way for everybody to win. And then when you're doing things on your own and aren't figuring out ways to serve more people, there's a better way to do things. So that's really where I think that I've had some aha moments over the years is how do we create win-win-win-win-wins for as many stakeholders as possible? And I believe that's the way to create movements of aligned people towards common goods to make the world a better place and to solve people's problems and to create better life for people. So it's putting this framework down, which I call perfect formula. And the idea is to strive towards a perfect formula. It's how do we get towards 100%, where we're checking all the boxes, where more people are being served, where business models are not excluding people. They're not just serving the few, they're serving the many. How do we create new ways of thinking about how to, using technology, aligning with principles, aligning it with ways to create a better world and create a way that a future that is we're all optimistic to be part of, and not something where we have concerns because the way that we're heading down may be a path towards a future that a lot of people don't think may be the best future that we can bring together as humans. So that's where I'm putting my attention is how do we create leaders and how do we create better problem solvers? And that's really where I'd like to put my attention. How can we create it better in children? How do we create better frameworks in schooling to create better leaders and better problem solvers? It's two things the world needs more of. It's two things that I'm hoping to bring to the table myself and to get others as well, inspired by what I've been able to do and where I'd like to take things. And at the end of the day, it comes down to how do we just serve our neighbors? How do we serve the planet? How do we do things that are just creating a better life as a whole? And that's where I'm putting my attention to.
That's really interesting, Anthony. I'm sure with all your knowledge and advice, the world will have more problem solvers. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been really nice speaking to you, and good luck with all your projects. I'm sure you're going to do really well as usual.
Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. All right. Speak soon. Bye.